Hi and welcome to Penser Bank. My name is Markus Almerud. I'm an analyst here at the bank, and today I have with me Christian Fredrikson, who's a CEO at Fingerprint Cards. Hi and welcome, Christian.
Thank you, and good to be here with you.
So you released your Q1 earnings this morning, and quite dramatic move in the share price on the back of it. So you came in with sales of around 300 million Swedish krona. Let's start there and then talk about sales and the guidance and how this all hangs together. So 300 million in the quarter, and you keep your guidance of 1.6 to 2 billion Swedish krona for the full year, meaning that you need to deliver another 1.3 or on average around 400 million per quarter to get there, which is quite a big step up from where we are right now. Talk to us a little bit about that. What gives you the confidence that you will get there? What needs to happen? Just give us some color on that.
Yes, thank you. So actually, first on the first quarter, on the 300 million, we are typically being so that there is about a 15% drop from Q4 in revenue going into Q1. And last year, that seasonality did not happen because there was a big boost in China to the market. And that kind of made us sell more in the kind of comparative quarter last year. But this quarter was again kind of typical seasonality for us, and it was a weak quarter, and it was also what we said that we would have a weak quarter in the first quarter, which we do. And so that's the first. So that kind of from our point of view, we had that in our view of how the year will be. That's how when we did the guidance as well. And it is big. And the other one is that the lower sales and the lower gross margin, which we also clearly had a lower gross margin and made it a weak quarter for us, is because it was mainly mobile and mainly in the low end of our product scenario. So the product mix was very low end on the mobile side. So none of the high-end products in mobile and very little in access and PC, which are the other, because there was a lot of those going in the second half. So kind of that's how the seasonality goes for us. Now, every quarter from now, we expect access business to come in, PC business specifically good to grow for us every quarter, and which basically started second half last year for us. And just to mention, for example, in PC, which gives us confidence, is that the largest OEM, the largest PC manufacturer, Lenovo, launched with our product 2 PCs with our sensor, and now we also came out just yesterday with 6 more PCs with Lenovo, and we have already launched with Honor, Dell, and Xiaomi and Huawei. So I think that gives us the confidence in the PC and access market that they will come in. Now, on top of this one, we also now finally, I realized that it has taken us longer than we wanted and what we believed it would, but now finally we have qualified ourselves also with the optical fingerprint sensor, which is the in-display, so goes to the high end in the mobile market. We expect the first commercial projects to happen also in this year. I mean, obviously towards the second half of the year for us. So those are the changes that we expect happen and that we are planned for. Maybe the only unseen thing is the lockdown in China, of course, and how long that goes.
And let's pick up on that, China, because China is this quite important market for you, on I would assume also on the PC side, but especially on the mobile side. So how important part of this was China, and how concerning is China for you going forward?
I think that our mix is improving in terms of how much we are in China. But yes, we are a lot in China in the mobile. We have big mobile OEM customers who, of course, sell a lot of their volumes going to China. So obviously, we are clearly impacted by a lockdown when it impacts the demand in China. I think that what we learned from the last lockdown, which was earlier on, I mean, it's not a proof of how things are going to go now, but last time it was a big lockdown. This is, of course, even bigger It is a very big, very strong measures they've taken to lock down so many people across so many cities in China. So the last time we learned was that they do it for a while. They did it actually quite a while actually last time, and then when they open up, there is a bounce back, right? But there is a drop in demand during the lockdown, obviously, because people are not out there buying equipment and living and going to restaurants and buying mobile phones, etc. But they are now sitting at home, and that, of course, we can't impact. It's not in our hands, and we wouldn't know how long this goes. But they are obviously, after 1 month of lockdown, they are looking at obvious different ways how to start opening up, get the factories and the logistics working much more again.
But if I read you right, with the caveat that there might be some problems with the demand in China impacting sales, you still have enough visibility to feel confident that we will see quite a sharp pickup in the latter part of the year.
Yes, so we believe in our guidance. We believe in that forecast that we have given out between 1.6 to 2 billion SEK, billion in Swedish krona, and of course, it's not our decision how long the lockdown goes, right? So that's maybe the uncertainty on it. But of course, we've taken some headway for it in the guidance as well now, or repeating the guidance for now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Obviously, when we did the guidance, we didn't know that there's going to be a lockdown in China of this magnitude. But of course, I have to say that whatever the lockdown is, it is obviously a temporary thing, right? You're not going to keep hundreds of millions of people in lockdown for a very long time, obviously. So it has to be and will be a temporary thing anyhow.
If we move down the P&L, so look at the cost base. If you start with the operating cost, if we add back at the capitalized R&D, you had a flat operating cost, and if you look at the cost of goods sold, it was only down marginally. So my conclusion from that is that it's mainly top line which is driving down the margin. Is that the correct conclusion, or are there other factors as well?
Yeah, I think a big reason was, of course, the product mix, as I was telling, that you do have that impact when we did more low end on the mobile side and less of the high end more margin products and the new areas that are coming in for us now. So obviously that impacts in the quarter, and we have these fluctuations that's a little bit like we have in our business for us. But yes, the other impact is so that when we come to the 300 million SEK, we need to be a bit higher, because then it falls better through the machine, so to say, right? The numbers are improving as well in terms of the overall when you keep this kind of cost level, and then you get more revenue, so it helps us clearly as well, right?
And when it comes to a product mix, you had a launch of the new sensor which during the quarter, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you usually have a product launch of a new sensor in the beginning of the year, and then you have a weak beginning of the year for both PC and Access. And normally we see these things picking up through the year, so it's kind of a normal pattern for you.
Yeah, that's the way it goes for us, and we always launch the new product. We typically do one of these bigger launches per year. Now we had this 1552 launched in the Q1 actually we launched it in Q4, and the first product that came out is happening in the first quarter for us, and now it's more product coming out. They are more the high-end products again. It's always a new platform every year for us that we need to launch. It's just a constant innovation. It's like high tech always works, right? That timing makes it right, that it's important in terms of why it can fluctuate also in terms of the gross margin for us, right? Which generation of product is out there at the time.
Mm-hmm. And then change track a little bit. There's a lot of talk still about raw materials, about supply chain, and about supply chain issues. How does this affect you? And then if we tie that to it's almost a perfect storm right now, where you have the war in Ukraine and you have the lockdown in China at the same time. How does that impact you?
I think on the material side, we have done a lot of work. It's been a lot of challenges in the materials during the last over 2 years now, 2.5 years with the whole semiconductor industry and different parts of the materials. And we have had our challenges on the way. I think we have built up quite a lot of resiliency now in terms of second and third source of different parts in different countries. So I think from the material point of view, we were able to deliver in Q1. We see ourselves able to deliver this year towards the forecast that we have done. So we have the material and the flows. The factories are still running also in China. If it's a lockdown, many of them are running, but they're just not. They have logistical challenges. So because of the lockdown, you don't have the transport between different places doesn't work that well because everybody is locked down. But people are also locked down inside the factories. They're living there, and then the factories are functioning. So there's a little bit of that more that is happening, but that's also a short-term challenge because so I see more that the material flow we don't see that that's disrupted for us right now. We don't see that the capacity or supplies we're not able to do that at the moment. We have logistical challenges which hit us at the end of the Q1 and because of the lockdown specifically in China then. And then when it comes to the second part of your question, which is the Russian attack on Ukraine, I mean, in itself, it's horrible, of course. But I suppose from a business perspective, we did not have business in those countries, so it's not really an impact for us directly. There is no impact in sales or in material flows for us actually when it comes to that into the war. But I mean, secondary impacts on economies and so is, I suppose, different things that everybody's trying to look at, or inflation in certain materials is another thing, right? But no direct impact to us actually.
All right, let's move on to the business areas and a couple of questions about the largest ones at least. Starting with mobile, we talked a little bit about this new sensor, the FPC 1552, which was you had the first launch of a product with that sensor in it. How important is this? Is an important part of the improvement in mix, or are they? I suppose they're not unrelated. But talk a little bit about this. Is it how important are these launches and then this particular one?
I think it's important in terms of the mobile capacity business for us. It's one thing that we do every year. You do improvements either on cost or design or both, and that's typically something we are launching every year. It's an ongoing thing. So I think yes, it's important in the mobile business for having the high end and driving the ASP for us and better margins in that business always. It's a slim curved sensor. It's also more challenging to do, more innovation in it. So it gives you always an advantage again in a new generation. So yes, it's an important product for us, a great launch to get out, and we will of course work on getting it in other high-end products as well for us, right? So that's in that segment with the mobile capacity. It's very, very great. It's a huge work that we've done again to innovate in that space.
You also passed qualification for an under display sensor with a large OEM, a large Asian OEM, and you say you expect the first commercial project to come out this year. Tell us a little bit about this again. How important is this? You have had problems getting into the under display market in the past, and this is, I guess, quite a big milestone for you. For this to continue.
It's definitely a big milestone for us. I'm very, very pleased with this one, and I realize that myself have been saying that we are working on getting in there, and we have not been as fast as we wanted. And I have clearly I had to explain that why we didn't get in earlier, and we had our challenges to get to the right performance level. And I'm very pleased that we've now done that. It's a big step for us because the high end in the mobile phone segment, about of the fingerprint sensors, maybe over 30%, a little bit over 30% is optical of the whole fingerprint market in the mobile segment. So over 30% is the optical in-display sensor, which is through the screen on the front of the phone. And that business, we expect to be by 2026, it's going to go up to, there's a little slight growth in that segment as well with the GDP growth. So up to 600 million units per year. And we want to take a good, we said that we want to have a good part of it. And of course, it's zero business for us now. So it's a market that is there to be joined. So of course, it's very important for us to get in there in terms of our growth ambitions in the mobile. And everything we do there now is just pure growth for us from nothing, right? So we expect the first, now when we have gotten in and qualified on the first large OEM from Asia, we expect the first, as you said, the first commercial projects to be launched this year then.
And how it normally works is that you will have projects following this kind of, this kind of qualification, and you also have usually more qualifications following the first one. Is that how it usually works?
Yeah, I think the first one is always the difficult, right? And it's a very it's hard as it's supposed to be. It's a hard test on quality, volume production, security, and all your performance on the phone. You need to meet those criteria and exceed them. And now we have done so very well. Actually, we have got a very good solution together that has now passed on all criteria. That was very important for us. And the next step is, of course, to go and actually win in the bids for the phones that you can go in with, right? And then when you've done this in one, obviously, we're going to work then on the other supply or OEMs as well, right? But it's easier when you have done it with one big, obviously, than you have. Yeah, it's a big step for us to get there, right? And then it's more just hard work to get through into the biddings and into the different models.
Mm-hmm. Another big step on the PC side is Microsoft approved your match on chip solution, and you got added as an approved vendor for the Hello Enhanced Sign-in Security, which opens up a completely new segment of the PC market for you. Again, coming back to the previous question, how important a step is this, and what could it mean?
I think it's another in the PC market. In the PC market, this was a very substantial, important step for us for a few reasons. One is, of course, that half of the PC market, it's about 350 million PCs which are produced per year, roughly now. And half of that market is consumer and half of it is enterprise, give or take, but roughly half. And we were able to deliver to the consumer market now, and that's where we have entered first. And the match on chip is a more secure, has its own memories, its own security and security system. So it's more in our home park. It's where we are good at typically as well. But then it opens up the second half of the whole market, the enterprise market. So that's important for us. And then, of course, coming through with Microsoft, not many suppliers. I think it's only 3 who have now, with us, who have passed the Microsoft, gotten the Microsoft security certificate. And Microsoft itself is now pushing for getting rid of passwords, using passwords on when you are on the PC. And I suppose consumers, or I am certain consumers, are totally fed up with using passwords on the PC as well. So they are also pushing this and helping it want the OEMs to move faster into getting this one as well. So they push the market, and of course it's a good testament for us, and now we can actually then go in and deliver into the enterprise market. So all those 3 reasons.
And in terms of penetration rates, have you seen the penetration rates in the enterprise market increase, or has it mainly been in the consumer market so far, and whereas the enterprise market is to pick up, or are they kind of moving in parallel?
I suppose the consumer market has been a bit faster in moving into this one. It's also less requirements, but now you see also, I think that there is going to be more and more push for the enterprise happening as well now, and we are going to launch in that segment as well now as well. So yeah, I think both will grow now. It's of course below 20% the penetration in fingerprint sensors in PC, below that today, and now it's kind of is only getting starting to increase. So it's about 20% maybe, right? So it's the penetration rate for fingerprint sensors. So there's a lot to do in the PC market now to grow that penetration rate. If you compare to the mobile, where it's 83% now, the penetration rate for biometry in mobile phones.
But you had 2 Lenovo model launched about a month ago, and then was it yesterday you had another 6 Lenovo models being launched with your sensor in it, right?
Yes, and that's of course a big testament and was very important for us because it is the largest OEM, PC OEM in the world producer, and now having even gone into 8 models with them. So I mean, that's of course, that's I think the proof point, but the PC business is starting to and is growing now every quarter for us, right? That's the logic for it as well, and we needed those to be able to prove to ourselves even and then to the market, of course, that this is happening now.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to payment cards, maybe the big growth area of the future. You mentioned on the call that there is an increasing pull from the banks as well to develop this, and the entire ecosystem is pushing for this to happen. Talk a little bit about the latest trends in this market. What is competition doing? What are the pilots you have in the market? How are they progressing? You mentioned 2 new commercial launches that you have in Morocco. How many kinds of conversations of these are you having? So how do you see this pan out in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I suppose first the whole ecosystem is committed and investing in this one, like clearly, and that's very important. So it's not us only being here because we are, of course, one player in it. At the same time, I said it many times, we are not the bank, so we don't make the launches. So it's always difficult to predict when they come and launch. Now we have launched with all together with 8 banks, and we are working with tens of banks together with our partners, right? In terms of if I look at the funnel, how many activities are going. And then when they launch and get to a launch of their own, that's always where, of course, it's finally up to the bank. We'll see a steady flow and a growth, of course, in the launches as well over the year, and a growth in the business as well for us. But it starts from very low numbers. It started last year in reality with I would say was the breakthrough when your first biometric launches by the big banks in France started. And I think that's going to go, but you need more big banks, right, to launch. And then you need, of course, them to go from one branch to several branches to actually even home enrollment and to get more and more consumers on. I think a very important thing is that as well is the consumer feedback. And the consumer feedback has been very positive in terms of using our solution with the banks. It works every time. And especially when people get more and more used to it, they like it a lot, no cap and so forth, right? So you can really use it very comfortably, right? And it works every time. And we have some long time users already who's been at it over a year. Actually, now it's the first launches. So I think that's important for us. And then, yes, it takes a lot of banks, because it's a long way to get through all these different banks and all their different markets. It's been very focused now in the European market, starting from France, then this Middle East, Northern Africa, and Latin America, and maybe Mexico now. So those are maybe where this is starting now, clearly.
And if you look at the conversations you're having, you mentioned tens of banks, that's a good mix of larger and smaller, and then geographically as well.
Yeah, it is in these areas that I said, and yes, it's tens of banks, and it's all kind of banks. It's large banks, smaller banks, fintechs. So, and that's kind of a good mix of seeing the interest as well, right? And then they have a little bit different processes. Typically, they do take their time. I have to admit that to get to a launch, and it's important, of course. They are very cautious. They want to look at it that it works, and the whole marketing team understands all the branches, the customer care can take any questions and so forth. And the enrollment is, of course, a very important part of it. How do you enroll the consumer? That's a big decision for the bank always to make that. Which way do they want to go there? And so far, most of the banks or all of the banks has been on more of an opt-in so far. So if you look at that's more what all the banks have gone for, in which they typically do. They start in the high end with an opt-in. So they do ads on it, and you have to want to take the biometric card. It's not if you look at how contactless went, for example, at some point the banks just decided now it's standard. Now you just get that card, right? You don't choose a card anymore when it gets home to you, right? Then it has become big and mainstream, of course, when the first bank starts to do that.
And I would assume that, I mean, the point where you get there is when you get the cost down to the kind of level where it's almost the same for the bank, and you would expect that the cost for these cards will also get to that point where that could be a possibility for that to happen for the biometric card as well.
Yeah, I think that you can get to very big volumes when you get below 10 and below $7 a card, and so it will be, it's going to be more costly than a standard cheap bank card, because you add biometric into it. But I think that you can get to massive volumes when you get to below those kind of price levels, I'm sure. Even $7, $5 for sure. Then you can go to very big volumes already.
Okay, I think time's running out, but if I summarize it, I think it was quite a difficult quarter in terms of sales, but you also feel quite confident that many of the factors impacting here are temporary. There's a lot of mix impacting, and we should expect a bounce during the remainder of the year, with the caveat of that we don't really know what the Chinese demand will actually do as we come out of COVID and how long the lockdowns will be.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of very good new launches for us, which have been very important for us to have the confidence that the volumes are coming through these new product launches, right, in PC and in optical, as well as in some of the access areas for us, and the new mobile capacity. So exactly. Thanks a lot, Markus, for that summary.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for listening.